Kurzgesagt, Kurzgesagt, and this is what actual aliens might look like by channel Kurzgesagt in a nutshell. Okay, title was different, I'm pretty sure, when this first popped up. Why does Kurzgesagt does that? Like, I'm pretty sure real life lore does that as well. Like, why do they change titles like that? I don't know. I guess they realize that this is not SEO good enough. What is it called? SEO, like something like search engine optimizer. That's what it means. So if some title doesn't garner enough interaction, they change the title. How do they know what words to use to get the? I don't know. Maybe that's why they have 23 million subscribers. They just know. So I don't know. I'm guessing this is like scientifically, as far as we know, how an organism can form, whether it's biggest or the smallest. I'm guessing that's what it's going to be, right? Guessing based on biological evidence we have. Again, like this is like as far as we know type of thing, because even the DNA based life might not be the limitation. Life can exist many different forms, like carbon based or beyond. But as far as we know, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Let's watch it.
What do real aliens look like? We know that life on Earth is incredibly diverse and exists in the strangest and most extreme places, from blue dragon sea slugs to eyes or chrysomelon snails with shells of iron, or whatever this is supposed to be. Let's use our imagination and real science to travel to 3 possible worlds, each more alien than the next. Put on your future science suit and enter the portal to witness wonders never seen before. The Eye of Oculus. This is the red dwarf star Oculus, 5 times smaller than our Sun and a lot less bright. A bit larger than Earth, but orbiting its star 20 times closer, you see the ice hell of the planet Kuiper. It's tidally locked, so one side experiences a never-ending night and the other an eternal day, lit by the star's dim glow. In the region,
I'm guessing the rim of that, like, I like a tidally locked places like that, right? Because in places like this, like a very specific region, like between, right? Like one place that sees no light, other places see all the light. There's a belt in between where possibly, maybe there could be life, even though like atmosphere might be an issue. But yeah, something can withstand that. Yeah, there could be life there.
Facing the dim star directly, temperatures are warm and pleasant. The hell of ice has melted into a shallow, black ocean, the Eye of Kuiper. About the size of Europe, barely 200 meters at its deepest point, churned by a never-ending storm where hot air meets the frigid winds from the icy outskirts. But below this inhospitable chaos, we find calm stability, an ecosystem in almost perfect balance. Let's dive in. Instead of meeting open water, we splash into a floating underwater jungle. We know places like this at home. Kelp forests made from seaweeds up to 65 meters long, sheltering countless smaller creatures. On Earth, we get abundant white sunlight, so our plants evolved to be green, absorbing the most useful red wavelengths for photosynthesis and reflecting away the rest. But Oculus shines not nearly as bright, and its dim rays are even further dulled by the storm. So here, plants are a deep black to make use of the weak infrared leftovers, which also gives the Eye of Kuiper its striking black color. Over billions of years, the jungle has occupied all possible space in the eye. Its roots extend deep into the seabed mud, anchoring them and providing access to nutrients. They drop their seeds in the few free spaces in the mud. Only death makes room for new life. Big and streamlined teardrop-shaped creatures push through the dark water. They kind of look like fish. Just like many sea creatures on Earth, their shape is optimized for the lowest drag when traveling through water. Like underwater cattle, they lazily swim through the forest, grazing on leaves in peace. Suddenly, a patch of strange-looking leaves begins to move and wraps around a distracted grazer, dragging it down into hungry jaws. A predator that's had eons to adapt its camouflage to fool its prey. But not...
Okay, I like how he's not just randomly talking about how biology works, but taking a planet and making assumption or hypothesis based on that with whatever science we have. Again, like we are assuming a lot of things, like life might actually behave exactly like how life behaves here, how there could be carnivores and things like that, right? Food tree type of thing. We are assuming all these things, but then again, like, you have to assume something. Like, you need basis of something if you're gonna guess something, right? Of course, all of that could be wrong, and life could be completely different.
Not only by imitating leaves, both hunter and prey never evolved eyes in this dark underwater murk. Instead, they do battle with sounds and textures. Listen. There's a whole cacophony down here. Countless species are singing to each other, sending warnings or invitations, forming a collective song. Like the noisy jungles of Earth, except howler monkeys and screaming pihas are replaced by chattering seed eaters poking at the mud with snapping pincers, squeaking spike bulbs loaded with poison, and the flailing fins of starfish-shaped grabbers hunting small prey. Beautiful and unsettling. In this stable and never-changing ecosystem, their music will never end for billions of years. You seem to have been noticed, and blind creepers are crawling towards you. You want to explore this world, not become part of it, so it's time to leave. The clouds of Nimbus. You're immersed in the blinding light of the B-type star Kurzgesagt, shining hot and blue, orbited by a dozen lava planets burned to a crisp. But we'll visit the last planet, Nimbus, a gas giant.
Okay, again, is it just me? But if I think about this kind of like big ass hyper giants and blue giants and shit like that, why does it panic me? I'm not gonna lie, right? Because when I think about that, like gigantic, like ours is like main sequence, basically average star. That's what sun is, right? But something like a blue giant and like a enormous looking star, right? Just the image of that, because no video or no like graphic can do justice of it, right? So imagine something like that looking up in the sky. That would be ridiculous.
Very much like Neptune in size and composition, except there's a lot more water, and seething hot Kurzgesagt showers it with 900 times more light than Neptune. So its atmosphere is warm enough for gigantic white clouds the size of countries to be lofted upwards by titanic warm updrafts rising from the hazy depths. Millions of years ago, and astonishingly quickly, life emerged and evolved inside tiny water droplets deeper down in the planet. Like extremophile microbes on Earth, they found ways of breathing methane and using exotic enzymes to harvest sulfur and nitrogen compounds from the air. As Kurzgesagt grew hotter and brighter, the higher altitudes of Nimbus became habitable and life spread. Let's dive into the gigantic white clouds to meet it. Up here live quadrillions of tiny beings, a kind of cloud plankton so small they're carried on the gentlest air currents. The most common type resembles flat, four-legged spiders barely a millimeter wide, tinted yellow by the sulfur they consume. They gain lift with wispy electrostatic threads thinner than spider silk, pulling on the charge differences between the top and bottom of the cloud oceans. A technique Zystica's crab spiders use to travel great distances on Earth. You're just in time for mating season. Billions of cloud plankton gather to join their threads into huge parachutes that ride updrafts for hundreds of kilometers. Here in the hot heights, they hatch their eggs before their life comes to an end. Other tiny creatures latch on, most of them predators looking to feast on fresh younglings. But not all life on Nimbus is tiny. The other way to stay up in the sky forever is to become a living balloon. Like the enormous sky whales, taller than a skyscraper, almost completely made of a wafer-thin membrane. They heat up trapped gases, making them less dense than the air around them, giving them buoyancy. The bigger their gas envelope, the more lift it produces, so sky whales evolved to be as large as possible. Only a lumpy, car-sized spherical bag of organs hangs at its bottom. Heating up all this gas requires a lot of energy, so it's time to feed. The spherical body opens up, unfolding and lowering a huge sticky net into the white clouds. On Earth, the largest animals to ever exist, blue whales, feed by filtering millions of tiny krill each day. Similarly, the sky whales of Nimbus filter sky plankton out of the clouds. Most is consumed right away and burned in specialized glands to generate heat. The rest is converted into an orange and energy-dense nectar for later. This nectar is the most valuable resource on Nimbus. Numerous predators are looking for it, but none so hungrily as the frog-sized jet squids, evolutionary cousins of the whales.
Yeah. Obviously, he's using a lot of physics to answer like how life could exist. Now, I have two things to say about that. First thing is that a lot of this like extreme guesses we are having is the foundation of like certain things that we just assume because we don't have much data about that, right? Because we only have life on Earth, right? So like one day we do actually like start to research places like this and realize, wait a minute, we were far off, like nothing like this could exist, because we whatever whatever used as a foundation like this, because of this could happen, turned out to be like completely wrong, right? Even in physics, which is like when you get it right, it's like one of the most strongest science you can have. Like Newtonian physics, right? It worked great. Before Einstein came around, it's just like, oh, this is a bit different, because Newtonian physics failed outside of like planetary system and things like that. But that doesn't mean it doesn't work. But like outside of certain bounds, like we assumed it's gonna work, it didn't. Before Einstein came, oh, by the way, here's relativity. Here's like space is of literal fabric and things like that. It literally like compresses and like bends and shit like that, right? Even that might fail one day, right? It already kind of like failing in singularity and like places like that. So the sciences that we use to guess something might like we might change, and we might realize that wasn't like 100%. And whenever something like this, like someone puts out hypothesis and things like that, it's assumed that thing, right? People was like, oh, scientists get shit wrong all the time. No, you just assumed like they are being 100% behind this type of way. Scientists in most cases are never 100% behind anything. Like everything could evolve, right? Many things that we know of at a certain local place, it's always going to apply. Newtonian physics will always work around planetary areas and things like that. Einsteinian physics will always work where it is working. If something new comes around, Einsteinian physics is not suddenly going to fail. So there is nuance to it. And when it comes to like size of things, yeah, it's really good because we live like in atmosphere, air, which is like a fluid, right? Ocean, water is also fluid, but it's much more thicker, right? So whales can exist inside the water, but can't exist in like thin air, the atmosphere we live in. But we can imagine an atmosphere which is also like thicker, like how water is, right? Or close to something like that, where some gigantic being can exist. Like Godzilla, right? Godzilla can't exist outside of the water. Godzilla can exist in the water. Outside of the water, it would collapse under its own weight, because that's how atmosphere is, right? But if we can imagine an atmosphere that is like thicker, and like something like this can exist.
Several of them trail each sky whale, waiting for it to be distracted or sleepy after a succulent meal. Jet squids are far less efficient floaters, but they're able to superheat and expel gases in short bursts like a rocket. Like vampiric hummingbirds, their long and pointy beaks try to pierce their prey and lap up some of the nectar inside. Unlike in the stable eye Iper,
Damn
life
mosquitoes.
on Nimbus is doomed. B-type stars like Caeruleus live for a few 100 million years at most, and this time is coming to its end. Soon it will be burning through its fuel at an astounding rate and violently burn our gas giant. Life on Nimbus is only 600 million years old and has barely 10 million years left. Is this tragic, or is this unique ecosystem lucky to have existed in the first place? Something to ponder as you move on before your jetpack runs out of fuel. A fatal attraction. Orsted is a Y-class brown
Yeah, it could be both. It is a wonder that it existed in the first place, but it's also tragic because it's ended. Two things can be true at the same time.
dwarf, 13 times more massive than Jupiter and with a magnetic field 60 times stronger. It belongs to the yellow star Sturgeon, which is about to disappear behind Orsted's shadow. But you're interested in Monnier, one of Orsted's many moons. It should get as much sunlight as our Earth, but its 3-hour orbit around the brown dwarf means its days are extremely short. Gravity here is a mere 5% of Earth's, so the moon can only hold on to a thin carbon dioxide atmosphere that doesn't retain much heat, so its average temperature is far below freezing. As its cold night begins, a chill descends on Monnier and dry ice snow falls from the sky. A green, blue and red aurora illuminates the landscape, made from star plasma caught in Orsted's magnetic field and striking.
This is what I wanted from Starfield. Visiting a planet which has shit like this, or like many how hard can it be to, like, I don't know, call Kurzgesagt. Thought I was to call Kurzgesagt, like, give me I'll hire you. Give me scenarios that gives me great scientifically based planetary systems like this, right? Think of it. You know it. Of course, he knows it here, right? Shit like this. Imagine like you visit that planet and all this is happening. Snow start to suddenly dry. Snow start to suddenly rain because it's nighttime now. Oh, that would be so, like, first Mass Effect. I loved, people hated it, but I loved it because of, like, even though the most planets were empty, it had a great, like, you know, asteroid shower, multiple suns, and it was so fucking great.
Monier's atmosphere. The Sturgeon system was born from a nebula saturated with metals, so iron and lead are abundant. In this frigid cold, chock full of toxic minerals, life found unique ways to make the best of a bad situation by using ammonia instead of water, which would freeze in the short nights, and by incorporating magnetized minerals and Ørsted's magnetic field into its biology. On Earth, species like lobsters or bees have learned to sense magnetic fields, but life on Monier takes it to a whole other level. As Sturgeon rises and its red rays filter through Ørsted's crescent, a yellow glow rushes over the horizon. The snowfall stops and temperatures quickly rise. The ground creaks and multicolored liquids trickle out from fissures all around you. Cryovolcanism, just like on Jupiter's moon Europa. Brittle-seeming bundles start to unspool and climb off the ground towards the bright star. Like Arctic flowers on Earth sprouting in the short summer, these plants don't have a minute of daytime to waste. Their blossoms are saturated with magnetic minerals, making use of the extreme magnetism and low gravity to levitate, reaching up to 1 kilometer into the sky, extending the sunset for as long as possible. Hey, don't touch them! With a loud crack, the skyflower detaches itself from the ground and drifts out of reach. Suddenly, you're surrounded. Hundreds of shiny critters zoom by. They look like ice skating snails and can circle Monier faster than the sunset. From their head, they extend 2 long stalks that are electrically conductive and merge up top. A magnetic kite that drags them along the surface at breathtaking speeds. The skaters formed a symbiotic relationship with photosynthetic purple microorganisms that live in their shells. These biological solar panels produce sugars that they share with the skaters in exchange for continuous starlight. If the skaters ever stop, they risk their partners freezing and death by starvation. The harmonic scenery is violently interrupted as the ground splinters open and a spiked metal claw grabs a skater and crushes it. It belongs to an animal that looks like a cross between a sea lion and a beetle. As it devours its prey, it gets covered in pink and sparkly fluids. These ambushers hide in the crystalline ground, spreading an array of electrically sensitive whiskers that they use to detect their prey and strike just as they zoom by. Like living landmines that could be buried everywhere. Maybe you should end your stroll. The darkness will return soon. It's time to return home. Back home. Earth. Warm and pleasant. It's good to be home, in the environment you and all other life that's not made up evolved in. But who knows, if you look up at the countless flickering lights, there may be countless strange worlds, home to life stranger than anything you've seen. Scientific speculation is fun, but also useful, giving us ideas about what we should look out for. And, who knows, maybe in a few thousand years, our descendants may actually visit exotic oceans, fly over white clouds the size of continents, or pet metallic animals. And maybe, just maybe, even talk to others like us, who are also marveling at all the strange life in our universe. Want to go beyond imagining aliens and start uncovering real secrets of the cosmos?
Yup, there we go. Yeah. But yeah, the life thing is like one of those sureties, like at least I think that, because so much thing is out there, like no way in hell there isn't life out there. Complex life, again, statistic wise, there should also be plenty out there, even the intelligent life like ourselves, right? Just by the numbers, who knows. This was a good video. I like how his hypothesis basically was a journey, right? from going all the way to alien planets to come back home, right? Looking at the stars and things, and yeah, seeing extremes of things, how like smallest life can exist, how gigantic floating life can exist because of the thick atmosphere and clouds and whatever, right? Plant like magnetic life. Yeah, this life is such a versatile thing that we can make assumptions about it like all day long. Like we can think of probably a million different type of life, if not more, right? But then again, like I said, a lot of data we have is from our home, and we take like a leap. If this means this, then this must mean this type of way. That's how mathematics usually work. Now that might turn out to be like most of the time true, but also like something that we took like way too far away, right? And reality might be completely different. So that's the fun of the frontier, right? Like we guess something, it might turn out something completely different, or something we thought of. In physics, usually it's like what we guess somehow turns out to be true. Higgs boson, right? Guessing what something's going to happen 100 years from now, and it accurately happens, something, right? That's why physics is awesome. It's really accurate a lot of times. But yeah, all right, I guess I'll see you next time.